Morning, everyone. Good to see full house here. Thanks, GFF, for giving us this opportunity to talk about account aggregator ecosystem. Today, we have a very diversified panel here covering Sahamati, like alliance body, TSPs, license account aggregators, and expertise from BFSI. So hopefully, we'll try to do justice in covering a lot more insights about the account aggregator. I mean, obviously, account aggregator is discussed in all the forums today. So something new we'll try to bring in to our discussion today. To start with, my first question to Mahesh. Mahesh, you were here last year, GFF 23. We are 1 year out, 24. What has changed? Like, where are we in the account aggregator ecosystem today?
So thank you, Nirav. So quickly, I would want to give you an update of where the ecosystem is today. So before we dive in with everybody else, about a week ago, we had made an official statement that the ecosystem had crossed, I must say ecosystem and not just the account aggregator, had crossed 100 million consents, and the number of data pulls had gone above 1 billion, and the number of accounts which have access to AA, I'm not telling everybody is making use of it, is like above 2 billion, and over 600 entities are already on AA. It is also very important to say that in India, what we have, the account aggregator ecosystem, which is a very important, so DPI, which I think people are actually forgetting that AA is a DPI. It is the largest, fastest growing open finance in the world today. It is hardly spoken about. So I would say it is a very proud thing, for the country and this ecosystem. So last year also I actually spoke here, so I thought it was important for us to show that what has changed, what has improved, what has grown over the last 1 year, because I think it is best we always speak about actually the numbers. And as you can see everywhere, I'm not going into each cell, but if you see the number of account aggregator handles which are there, as of today, it actually represents about 8% of the India's population, adult population. So which is not small. Again, AA is a DPI, AA is being used, but I think people are not aware of it, but because everything is happening through the FIUs, and thanks to the AAs, FIUs and FIPs, and the TSPs, I should say specifically, due to which, and the last one, yes, all those numbers are actually good, but everybody wants to know what is the actual impact of this DPI, because ultimately it is not about the hype. The only way to actually know whether DPI is impactful is actually through the numbers. As you know, the account aggregator went live in September 2021, and from then to March 2024, about 43,000 crores of loans were given out. Currently, the run rate is that for every month, about 4,000 crores of loans are being given out, and all the numbers you can see for yourself. And after lending, the other use case, which has gained actually traction and a lot of attention, I would say, is actually PFM, personal finance thing, because it helps you to have your own balance sheet. So every individual should have their own balance sheet, and we are already seeing like every quarter how this important use case is actually growing. So thank you, Nirav. I think this is a general update I wanted to give you about where we are today.
Awesome. Thanks, Mahesh, for all the insights on where we are today. Well, it is very well known that probably lending is by far the biggest beneficiary. We are about I think from all the 100 million consents, we are probably 70 to 75% is a lending use case. So my next question, and again, two-part question, maybe starting with you, Aiyappa, is what are some of the other use cases as an account aggregator you're seeing which is helping in the inclusion, like say financial market inclusion, where we have about 15 crore demat account, which represents about 10% of the population. So will account aggregator increase the access to the financial markets, plus any other use cases that you have seen that are picking up outside of credit?
Thanks, Nirav. So I remember a conversation that I was having with some of these advisors at a ARIA event, and they were saying that to onboard a new customer for them takes anywhere between 10 to 45 days, depending on how financially organized the person is. Now, essentially, when we talk about financial advisory, the issue or the largest overhead over there is collecting the data, analyzing the data, and giving meaningful insights. And because it's so cumbersome and takes so much effort to put together, the advisory as such is expensive. And so today it has been limited largely to the financially overserved. Now, if I can take that and shift it to the other side and look at our tier 2, tier 3 cities, we see a lot of people who actually have really good incomes, but are lacking on financial literacy, right? Are lacking on good advice. If I may give you a personal experience of mine, I come from an agriculture background, right? And I see my cousins, my uncles, all of these people who have agriculture cycles where they end up with surplus funds, but no real advice on what to do with it, right? And then they're influenced by your influencers on social media, and they take wrong decisions. Now, if you can automate that pipe using the account aggregator, now you can have an entire ecosystem that can grow with advice that is not as expensive. It can be available, right, to the common man. And that itself will grow the ecosystem, right, and it'll become an inclusive ecosystem from an advisory point of view. Other use cases, I think we need to start focusing on innovation. If I look at what RBI is talking about, RBI is saying, okay, can banks or other entities increase deposits, right? So can we look at people, their incomes, and say, okay, you have surplus income, and can we then say, okay, go in for long-term deposits? But these are some things that are more discretionary, personal. And so we're talking to our customers to figure out how it will work. I think we have a long way to go, but we're on the right path.
Thank you, Aiyappa. Nikhil, maybe your input on this.
Sure. So, hi everybody. Welcome to day 2 of GFF. It's extremely packed, but glad to have a full house here. Coming to the account aggregator ecosystem and what's happening. I and some of the folks here have been following this space for more than 5 years now, and it's off to a slow start. But we've really picked up momentum in the last 12-14 months. What has changed is the journeys that are now live today in the market are really seamless. And while the numbers paint a really great picture, I think there are still gaps to be addressed. So when we talk about inclusive growth, I feel a couple of things are missing, such as access to holistic data. We still don't have a sizable coverage around things like current accounts, joint accounts, and a bunch of other asset classes. The other day, RBI and the Innovation Hub has talked about the unified lending interface. I think that's again an excellent initiative. Of course, for credit to say businesses to really take off in a meaningful manner, we again need access to that data, and those pipes are today not quite there yet, but it's a work in progress. So that's some of those things that are holding us back, and specifically about what we have really doubled down on is, say, the insurance sector. So insurance again has been a category that can do better, and overall I feel there's a lot of opportunity and a headroom to grow. We have to continue really pushing the boundaries with respect to what is possible. There's a lot of innovation still left on the table for all of us to really go after it. And, it's a wide opportunity. And, we can do it all in a very compliant and a privacy preserving manner. So these are, a couple of things that I feel is, going to set the theme for the next year and a half or so.
Thank you, Nikhil. That's a good segue into, I think you touched upon insurance. Like, while there are a lot of use cases of insurance being talked about, like giving a very personalized insurance recommendation based on the user spend behavior personas, or adjusting the pricing of the user based on their income and all, doing a income assessment and underwriting a life policy and all. So there are a lot of use cases being talked about, but is there a specific reason? I think you work with multiple insurance clients. Any specific reason why it hasn't really picked up, in your opinion?
Sure. So couple of things. One is definitely the fact that the instant low-hanging fruit, with respect to the insurance sector around the use case was primarily in the financial underwriting space. That often tends to be very bottom of the funnel, and it's something that in a pre-account aggregator world was being driven by distributors primarily. Insurance, again, is an extremely distribution-driven business. So to introduce a change in behavior in the end consumer, I think that was, the step we skipped. We did not really evangelize and educate the end consumer about what the account aggregator is, why this is a better experience, and a more secure way to share your data. I think these were some of the core things that we have missed out on. The business teams and the operations team gets it. Of course, the risk and the underwriting team also gets it. But, I feel if there are any marketing folks here in this room, I think now is your time to shine, to really, get the word out. And, I think what really clicked for UPI was it's a very regular high frequency use case. Data and, how the account aggregator works, it's a very in the background back office sort of use case. The only time end customers really interface with the user interface is when they're giving consent and they're explicitly, seeing what sort of data they're sharing. So in insurance, I think, if we talk about insurance for all by, 2047 and, our regulators have set targets, it's going to take a lot of effort. Clearly, the current insurance products and the current, companies out there have been able to make only a non-significant dent with respect to, total coverage and total penetration of the insurance in the country. So account aggregator can be a key enabler when it comes to building hyper-personalized products for insurance and making them affordable and personalized. I think this is a direction that's, wide open for disruption, and we would love to see companies really go after this, incumbents and disruptors alike.
Thank you, Nikhil. Mahesh, your input on this?
Yeah, so in the insurance, as of today, the amount of usage of the entire concerns is only 1%. Unfortunately, it's very low. But if you see insurance as a product itself in India, the penetration is very low. Like after an event happens, then we think, oh, I should have bought an insurance. But ideally, you should have bought insurance earlier and not after the event. And also, you see, because in insurance, you have the life insurance and then you have the general. So when you buy a car insurance, etc., there is no need for them to see the bank statement. So there's no use case for them. It is for the life insurance where it is a use case, because they want to see, how you are spending, your money and about your lifestyle, etc., which is when you apply. But also one important use case for insurance, the life insurance, is in the claims. As you know, in all the financial, things, whether it is actually the banking or insurance, etc., you have huge amount of cash which is yet to be claimed. And it is not something, from what I understand, either the entity, the FI, or the regulator, or the government is happy about having that unclaimed assets. So when we fill who is the beneficiary, the nominee, whether in a bank or insurance, through account aggregator, we are able to verify and ensure that the account is actually there and it is actually that person. So these kind of use cases, as we go forward, have to get implemented. It's not, lending is one low-hanging fruit. So lending is only one of the use cases. Yes, as of today, it is being used a lot. But you will see, I mean, afterwards, we can also speak about the new use cases which have gone already live or about to go live or launch during the event, which nobody had thought about.
Thank you, Mahesh. Just to add to this, I think with one of our insurance clients, we were also able to, like how Mahesh mentioned, like claims process where user needs to verify an account. So they were able to implement account aggregator flow where the user inputs an account and then it goes through the A journey and they were able to verify the account and then the claim can be processed. So it's slow progress, but I think insurance is gradually will pick up. As Nikhil said, hyper-personalization will be a key theme there. Coming to you, Akhilesh, I think with your KPMG experience working with the broader BFSI industry, working in the data security, data privacy, you know, what are some of the things that AAs, TSPs, Sahamati can learn from it and implement to improve overall security and the privacy aspects of the ecosystem?
Thank you, Nirav, for inviting me. I'm clearly the oldest person here. And if I can draw your attention that Nirav knew that I can't contribute much, that's why he kept ping-ponging amongst themselves. But little did he know that the sound travels slower than the light of speed, right? So I look smart, but I don't speak smart. So hopefully that physics law has kind of worked in your favor, Nirav. Great question. I'll take a few minutes to bring this to life. But before that, can I ask a question, show of hands? How many of you really understand account aggregator and what it actually does? All right, that's really, really good audience. So therefore, I think it's the first step done in terms of really, because I went to another account aggregator thing where they kept that AA ecosystem and somebody thought it's about the AA batteries discussion. So I think a lot of it, so my first advice before we talk about the advice on security or data protection, all that, I think the account aggregator community has to stop calling it account aggregator. And I will have a reason to say that is because when many of us started using mobile payments, we didn't talk about UPI, right? You know, UPI just was the engine behind. So how do we make account aggregator as invisible as oxygen, which is like everybody gets it, but we don't have to talk about it, I think would be my first thing. But coming specifically on the best practices around it, the first thing I would like to say is that I go back in 90s and maybe late 90s and early 2000. I used to go to the boardroom, and when I talked about technology and the movement to cloud, the first question which came to all in the boardrooms I went to is saying, why cloud? And the issue was saying, you know, it is insecure, it is not good, my data can get lost. And fast forward the life now, every boardroom I go to and any technology, they say, why not cloud? So that shift has happened from why should we go to cloud because it's less secure perceivably, to move to now, let's move to cloud because we can't keep our systems as secure as the cloud guys can do. So I think that's the same perception which lies saying, you know, can the data become less secure because there's an account aggregator? I think the data can become more secure because there is a framework and a very strong legal regulatory framework which exists. That's point number one. The second point I would like to make is if you look at all the ads around the world, or when you, I don't know how many of you, please don't smoke. It's not an advertisement for allowing you to smoke. But if you look at any cigarette pack anywhere in the world, it has statutory warnings. It's got those dirty pictures. You know, you watch a movie and they will tell you, how your liver and all that can get damaged. So the bad things, everything about bad, which is saying, this can cause all the damage. But do a thought experiment and think of in your mind, have you seen any toothpaste ad which says that if you don't brush your teeth, you will have dirty, rotten teeth? Invariably, you will find a toothpaste ad which will say that if you brush your teeth, you will have pearly, shiny, white teeth. So there's a positive story to a good implementation. And that's what I think a good account aggregator security system can mean, saying, don't worry about what will go wrong, because a good security system will actually make us shine. So I think there's a lot of positivity. And while I work in the business of cybersecurity, I think there isn't a better story than saying, you get more secure because you allow a regulated ecosystem. Because even now, we today know that, how our data can get misused and accessed. So I think the whole AA ecosystem is doing a great job with respect to doing few things. But I think 3 advices, again, I'll just kind of wrap it up and back it to you. The first one is, I think there's a need for education. I think there's less education about, what is the art of possible, what is, how is it more secure, as I gave the example of, how people now believe that the cloud systems are more secure because doing security on their own is much harder. That's my first thing is on education. The second thing is building new ways of trust. And let me take you back again, many of you are youngsters. So 2 generations before you, how did people get married? They married when somebody told them saying, get married to this person. By the way, they said that in those times it said that there are 2 kinds of lies for which the God forgives you. One is when you lie for saving somebody's life, and the other is that when you lie for getting somebody married, saying they will deal with it later. So, nobody said that, don't marry her or don't marry him kind of thing. So that was grandfather thing. The generation prior to us, prior to me, sorry, again, I relate to you. I don't relate to you guys anyways, was, through newspaper ads. So the trust was developed through a credible medium. And I think the generation next was dating. So you started to date people, saying, I want to know you. And I'm sure the next generation will be living, saying, I want to test it. I want to live with you to inherit trust. So I think that's the same thing I would say that the account aggregator system has to build trust by showing it rather than by talking about it. So that's the second thing, and great use cases around that. So that's my second advice. And my third advice is things will go wrong. So let's not assume that things will be perfect. Things do go wrong. It's like saying, when you drive on road, can I expect that there'll be 0 accidents? No. So how do we deal with it when there are accidents to get people primary care, secondary care, or tertiary care as soon as possible, rather than wishing for the accidents to not happen will be a bad way to deal with it. In fact, there's a study which says in the US, saying the hospitals which penalize nursing staff for medical defects have lower defect rate versus those who didn't penalize. And the reality is that those medical staff which get penalized, they actually don't report when they do something wrong. So when you have a harsher thing about, an accident, you will end up having people trying to cover up the accident, and that will be bad. So those are my 3 advices. Thank you.
Excellent input, Akhilesh.
Hey, on that note about the name, not many people know, but the RBI master direction actually refers to the account aggregator as a consent manager. We are not actually an account aggregator, right? The concept was to actually help people maintain control over their data and who they share it with. Over a period of time, that changed into account aggregator because our license is an NBFCA.
Yeah, again, I'm saying that, I don't know how many of you know there's an organization called, you heard of different kinds of service providers. There's something called OSPAI. OSPI stands for Other Service Provider Association of India. So the government has, you have internet service provider, you got telecom service provider, and got other service provider, and it's called OSPI. So I think sometimes the name can be, because the government will give whatever names it wants to give. But all of us use, I'm sure, when you use your phones and all that, there is so much of technology, technical names and all that underneath it. So I think how do we, from an education standpoint, we demystify, de-jargonize, that is my simple advice. I think the consent management.
Absolutely.
So I would simply say that, my 17-year-old daughter doesn't care what the name is.
Yes.
She says, this is the use case, and therefore I heard when Mahesh said that, let's focus on the newer and newer use cases. This infrastructure will exist for all of us.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well said, Akhilesh. My next question, again, bringing back to the credit landscape. Maybe, Aiyappa, you want to highlight some of the impact that it's bringing to new-to-bank or MSMEs in through some of the data that's coming through AA pipes.
Okay. In one of my previous avatars, I used to run retail outlets. And every time you approach a lender, they talk about what kind of collateral you can keep, what kind of asset you can keep whenever you want a loan. I think with the advent of AI, that is changing from physical assets to data as collateral, right? Let's look at our new to credit people right out of college, people who are, who have just started working, right? They may not have CIBIL scores or, bureau scores of that kind, but these guys are excellent transactors in digital payments, right? I look at my team itself, who are largely, I don't know which gen is it, X, Alpha, one of them, right? So these guys, everything is UPI, even, 1 rupee, 5 rupees, 10 rupees, they're paying on UPI. So there is a fantastic digital footprint, right? And what the AA does is that it now allows you to give this data securely and systematically to lenders who can now assess much more, finely to do underwriting, for underwriting assessments rather. Now, from an MSME point of view, an MSME wants credit products that are flexible, that are given to him from a timely manner, right? The A, essentially what it does, it brings different data sources together, right, from GSTN to your banking, and now a lender can assess cash flows, he can assess seasonality and say, okay, when in the month does he have the highest cash flows? And effectively from that point of view, tailor make the EMI collection to that date, right? These are things that we are not seeing in the industry but can be done. For a Kirana store, he's so dependent on his distributors who give him credit, right? And so he thinks, okay, I can only work with these guys because, they give me credit and, I can't go to a lender. Now, if a lender was going to step in and say, look, I'll take care of the distribution of lending, you just worry about doing the sale. He's now able to take much better decisions on who he wants to do business with, who gives him the better rates, and all of these things. And that is what is missing in this entire ecosystem. And I think AA can do a phenomenal job from that point of view.
Thank you. Mahesh, maybe you want to talk about impact from your end.
No, I see. I think in the starting I already told about the impact which it has helped. But I think if we focus on the MSME lending, so every year the amount of the credit, like actually gap, which is there is almost 28 lakh crore every year. So the only way you can attend or fill that gap, you can't fill the gap or at least reduce the gap, it has to be technologically oriented. You can't do it actually manually. And in the account aggregator, what happens is that you are able to, actually get access to the data, of the borrower, prospective borrower, in a very seamless way, and it is completely fraud-free. If you ask any of the lenders, one issue they have is you have a huge amount of friction to access the data, and it is not actually fraud-free, tamper-free. So all that is gone. And all lenders, not many, I should say, have informed us the fraud rate from the bank statements or any data which is, coming through AA has, completely shrunk to zero. It can be 4 to 8%. And I've heard with few NBFCs, they've actually seen rates, I don't know how far it's true, but an NBFC told me that as high as like almost 35%. It was alarming. So with AA, it actually, it does, and it improves the TAT, the turnaround time. So the impact, I would say that if we focus on areas who are yet to get access to the formal credit, I think the impact over the next few years, it won't happen over 6 months. It's a long journey. I think we will see, a huge impact.
Thank you, Mahesh. One specific example I'll add to this point. So we work with a lender where if you look at before AA, they were able to underwrite customers, say out of 100, probably 7-8 customers were getting loan based on the bureau data. Everyone else, like 90 plus customers, were getting rejected. Potentially because either they are thin file or they are new to credit. Now because you have access to the account aggregator data, they are now able to take that rejected customer, move them to account aggregator journey, and because account aggregator has a lot better conversion rate, success rates, now they are able to potentially approve probably 4 to 5% more customers just because of the cash flow of the data. So that is one of the key impact we have seen with some of our lending customers. I think one more final question and then we'll probably open it up to the audience. Just want to understand from all of your perspective, what will it take to create an inclusive growth, like from Sahamati, TSPs, account aggregators, like just help us like a short answer on, how do we, bring the inclusive growth?
Yeah. You also spoke about the account aggregator is not the right name. So in my opinion, Sahamati is the right name. So it's my, okay. So, when we started this company, we had to...
Disagree on Sahamati.
Yes. Okay. You know, like as you all may know, I mean, because here many are familiar with a ecosystem. As of now, only the singly held accounts are live on A. You asked, how can we grow this ecosystem? So from what I understand from the banks, which was news to me, I should say every time I go and meet any of the FIs, every time I come back and I understand that, I mean, how much more I have to learn, I don't know anything. That's one thing I have realized over the last 5 years. I heard 85 to 88% of an accounts in a bank are singly held accounts, which I didn't know. Okay, I thought it was joint account or either or survivor. So obviously I was living in some other land. So in account aggregator, as of now, only singly held accounts have gone, both in the retail and also sole proprietor. Now we would love to see that actually the joint account and either or survivor accounts actually go live. It will increase the usage. Okay, which is one. And one thing we hear from account aggregators and also the FIUs, the lenders especially, the data quality from actually in the FIPs have to improve a lot. Yes, I agree it has to improve a lot, but if you compare how it was 6 months ago or 1 year ago, it has improved a lot. It's a long journey. Okay, now everybody is expecting that account aggregator will actually grow to the level what UPI is today. UPI also actually took, like almost 10 years. So, AA is not so quick commerce where within 1 minute it is delivered. Okay, it's a long journey. Okay, and over the last 3 years, it has improved a lot, and I'm sure it will increase. And if it has to improve, data quality has to improve, I would say every player in this ecosystem, which is the FIUs, the one who's using the data, the account aggregator, and the FIPs who are providing the data, should be compensated. Okay, even the one who's providing the data should be compensated. So, when we get into this free business, I think we are only going southwards. Okay, so because after all, even the banks, especially the amount of money they spend on the infrastructure to deliver the data, it should be recognized. And I should say that the account aggregator ecosystem has taken off only because of the large banks in India who went live on AA as a provider, not even as a user. Okay, for 3 years, these large banks, the public sector banks, have been actually giving data, not using data. Now they're starting. So one should recognize what they all have contributed to this important FIP. And I think I'm going a bit technical, but the account number is actually masked when it comes to the lender. I think the account number should not be masked when it comes to the lender. But if somebody is able to see that information on an account aggregator app, I think in my opinion, it's okay if it is masked. And we need more and more new kinds of information, FIs on AA. For example, your credit card statement is very important. It should be on AA. Okay, then you will require EPFO, Provident Fund, income tax, etc. And the new use cases, which I told, now I see few of the banks and also the funds are about to use AA to detect in what you call the insider trading. Okay, which AA, nobody had actually thought about it earlier. So AA now is being used not for lending alone, to onboard new customers, it is being used a lot. And the new use cases are which nobody had thought to look into, the insider trading. So these kinds of use cases will be born, as we move forward. We will learn, where exactly it can be solved, and it will go live.
Yeah, same question, but I think Mahesh covered a lot of points, but maybe from an AA lens, if you have anything, Aiyappa, to add.
Sure. I'm going to let Mahesh do the fighting battles in terms of getting us the data quality and all these other things, right? But to add on to what Mahesh said about UPI, right? It's very tempting to compare A and UPI, right? And I think we are also at fault at that, saying UPI of data and all of that. We brought about these taglines when we went live. But what we need to understand is that UPI in a way is very simplistic, right? There's only one SKU, rupees, right? And there's a plus or a minus at the end of that transaction. Either you're debiting somewhere and you're crediting somewhere else. But A is not such. A is very complex with the type of data sets we handle, the kind of use cases that we handle, the kind of work that goes into actually making this happen is quite complicated. So from that point of view, I think the kind of scale we have achieved in 3 years is phenomenal, right? Yes, there's a long way to go. We'll get there, but let's take our time, and there's nowhere to go, right? From a simply point of view on inclusive growth, I think, and Mahesh touched on this, is that we need a very viable financial model for the A's, right? Instead of battling on a per transaction cost, if we take on this thing voluntarily of saying that, okay, fine, let's have a sustainable model for A's will then be competing on product, right? A's will be competing on innovation. We need to have at least a 10-year outlook to say, okay, what can we achieve over a period of time rather than fighting for survival? I think that would be a key for us.
Absolutely. Nikhil, any inputs from your end?
Yeah. So in the last sort of 2 years, we've been working with some of the largest card issuers, the biggest NBFC in the country, and some of the biggest sort of digital lenders. And the convenience factor is very clear, and the business lens is very clear with respect to the kind of outcomes that can be delivered. But I think what is missing to drive, say, an inclusive growth is, of course, I call it the trust, utility, and ubiquity sort of, trilogy. So we need trust in the framework. We need utility. Utility has played out fantastically as we've seen the numbers, right? And for ubiquity to really kick in, we need end customers to understand what is happening. They do not need to understand the technicalities, right? I feel today a lot of the adoption has been driven by business practices, by business, taking a call, why this makes sense. We need end consumers to proactively go for this. For example, today in all the journeys, like a bank statement upload or, like a fallback option is always present in the journeys. So when you see account aggregator and you see, say, a statement upload, I guess most of the people in this room will also probably go for the statement upload, right? It's just something that you're wired to. It's something that you're aware of and how it works. I think to your point, so, we have a branding problem in this ecosystem. The utilities played out excellently and, the numbers speak for itself. But, one quick thing to sort of conclude is today my parents and some of my family members are here. They never attend such events. They don't know what exactly Finarkein does, what does Nikhil do. But I think that is the aim for me as a member of this ecosystem. I have to make sure that my parents understand what this framework is, what is the outcome, what is the utility, right? And I think if we can get them to understand, I'm sure, India can catch up as well, right? I think, yeah, that's it for me. Thank you, guys.
Excellent point, Nikhil. Akhilesh, maybe last couple of words from you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the last word. But before I have my word, can I have a round of applause for Nikhil and his parents? Nikhil, I wish I was as fortunate as you to have your parents clap for you, because not that they don't, they do all the time, but I think you're doing a lot of things at a very early age, and we are proud of people like Nikhil. So at least I am very, very happy that the new India is not the India which I lived most of my prime career and all that. I'm telling you guys, I'm very, very old. I'm not Bhishma Pitama, but getting there. The only thing I've told is that मैंने बाल धूप में सफेद नहीं किए हैं, because जब मैं पैदा हुआ तो सूर्य तो था ही नहीं. So I'm of that time. But on the last word on what could happen, I'll make two remarks. So the first one is that there's a quote which gets credited to Henry Ford. I don't know whether he said it or not. It said that if I asked a user, I would have built a faster horse. It's a very profound quote. If I asked the user, I would have built a faster horse, because many of us can only see what we've seen. So it's very hard for us to imagine and look at different use cases. And I always tell my wife, saying, if I ever was given the responsibility to build a YouTube, I wouldn't have built it to our house help, because I cannot understand her use case. So the first thing is that, for the, we'll use the word Sahamati, for the Sahamati ecosystem to be inclusive, we need to have the developer Sahamati ecosystem to be inclusive. So we need more Nikhil and other Nikhil and other people to come together in that ecosystem. So I'm glad that all of you are here, but I think we need hundreds of you to first start with saying, what are the possibilities? That's my first thing, saying expand the ecosystem of developers. The second thing, which I will go back onto the point, I think many of you said it, but I'm a storyteller, I'll tell in my own way, is if you want something to be smart, something to be sustainable, something to build so humans are the only species which can actually expand our lifestyle. All other animal species live a natural life stage, and after that. So if you look at the life expectancies, despite all of us having all the bad habits, I talked about smoking, is increasing year on year. By the way, somebody who live 150 years is already born. So we will have 150 years of life expectancy, people who are being born now. So just think about it. When you have a child, think of providing for 150 years. So the human species, a zebra's child takes 45 minutes to run. So from the time the zebra's child is born, it can run in 45 minutes. A human child takes on average 9 to 12 months. And that 9 to 12 months is the cognitive development, the societal development, and the working development. So don't expect zebras to become smartest species. They won't. So don't expect this ecosystem. I know it's been 4 or 5 years early, but you talk about UPI 10 years. Things are getting faster, but I think this is a complex ecosystem. The second example I'll give on the speed point is there's a lot of research on when humanity was discovered, on when we became like a social animal. It's not when we started to produce wheat, by the way, what the Professor Noah Harari says. It said that, humans are the only species, when you break your femur bone, okay, so if an animal breaks their femur bone, they are dead meat, because somebody else will eat you, you are a prey. But only for humans, we have developed the ability to nurse. So if another human breaks a femur bone, so the day we discovered the ability to nurse other humans' femur bone, we became human. So I think the ecosystem, in my view, cannot compete within. The ecosystem has to cooperate within and have to care for the femur bone of others. So those are my two pieces of them. If you want to clap for him, Nikhil. Thank you so much.
Excellent points all around. Do we have time for questions? No? 1 or 2 questions? No? I think we are out of time. Sorry. Thanks everyone. Thanks for attending the session.